we have speakers galore tonight. So as they come up here and tell you why it's important for them to be here, we urge you to enjoy your dinner a little bit. We don't want anybody to clank too much, but we understand that that's going to happen a little bit. Our next guest is the ultimate public servant, state treasurer, lieutenant governor, and governor, serving this state of Illinois for 5+ years as our state's governor and doing great work for people in the disability community, doing great work for people who have mental illness, and always looking out for the little guy. When I first got to town 16 years ago, he would have press conferences on Sunday. Nobody, and then he realized he didn't have to compete with anybody. So I think we had him on the air every Sunday talking about what was important to Pat Quinn. I can also tell you that I had the good fortune 7 years ago, almost 7 years now, to visit the troops in Germany, the wounded U.S. troops, with the then lieutenant governor. And you know, when you ride around a van in Germany for almost a week with a guy, you get to know him pretty well. He is a great public servant. He's a great man. We appreciate all you've done for the state of Illinois. Here's your governor, Pat Quinn.
I want to thank Father Donahue, as well as Pete, for their heartfelt words. I think this is such a wonderful thing for our state and our country to have the Kennedy Forum right here in the land of Lincoln, state of Illinois. And I do want to thank Patrick Kennedy for his tireless advocacy, his zealous advocacy for this important mission. And his uncle, when he signed that bill in 1963, the last bill he signed before he was assassinated, I think he really sent us a message that we, the people who carry on the dream, we have work to do. And today I was with our great County Board President, Tony Preckwinkle. We were gathered at a hospital on the west side of Chicago. We announced that we enrolled 717,000 people in the Affordable Care Act in the state of Illinois, far beyond far beyond the original predictions. And it was so inspiring to see all the navigators, all the recruiters. We're beginning the second year of enrollment this Saturday, and it's so important because one of the 10 essential benefits in that law that our President Barack Obama championed and Patrick Kennedy voted for, and Rahm Emanuel, our great mayor of the city of Chicago, understood how important that was as chief of staff to President Obama. But in getting that law passed, there is parity, and there is a very important mission that we have to make sure and ensure parity across Illinois, across America, when it comes to mental health treatment. And I do want to thank Sarah Feigenholz, who's here, and President John Cullerton, who was here with us. It's important that we, in our state legislature and all of the laws that we pass in Illinois, carry out the essence of the Affordable Care Act to make sure that there is mental health service and treatment and resources for all of our citizens across Illinois. 13 years ago, I was on the bridge above the Mississippi River, Centennial Bridge in Rock Island. I was with my doctor, Quentin Young, who's still with us. He's now 92, but we decided to walk across Illinois from the Mississippi River all the way to Chicago and Lake Michigan on behalf of decent health care for everyone, and that means mental health care. And as we walked across our state, mile after mile, in the heat of August, we met so many people that said to us how important it is to have access to mental health services. And I think with the law that we've been able to pass nationwide and implement here in Illinois, and working with great people like Peter O'Brien and many, many more who are gathered here today, we know we can put our shoulder to the wheel and make the will of the people the law of the land on this mission. Thank you very much.
I remember being with our next guest the night he was elected to Congress in '02. It was Schubas, right at Belmont and Southport, 5th District Congressman, already served in the White House, ends up going back to the White House. Now he's the mayor of Chicago. We don't relish the budget and pension problems that you have to deal with, Mayor, but it sure does mean a lot to us that you're here tonight with us to celebrate the Kennedy Forum of Illinois. So without further ado, here's your mayor, Rahm Emanuel.
Thank you. Let me just say a short word, because there's nothing we're going to say tonight that equals the O'Brien's willingness to share their story. Nothing will measure up. And I want to thank you for sharing that and making sure everybody's aware. Thank you, and heartfelt. Because anything we have to say is about what we've done on the public service side, and it doesn't measure what a parent dealing with a child and watching them struggle and be tormented and by mental illness. And the truth is, it's not that child, because when one person's sick, it affects the entire family. And Patrick and I were just talking about the fact that he just reminded me, I remember we were passing mental health parity in the House of Representatives, and he and Congressman Ramstad from Minnesota, was one of the few bipartisan bills, and we met in the back of the chamber, got it through the House, but what he did remind me of, that I remembered. What I didn't remember is, and I know you all hate the TARP and the financial reform, it actually passed because we stuck it into the Senate on the financial reform TARP legislation. So if you hated the TARP, know there was mental health parity right there in that legislation. And you had a lot to hate about the TARP. And as the governor noted, when we passed what's known as ACA, but Obamacare, that it finally made sure, with mental health parity, that the insurance companies and all those could no longer play games and tricks on families and individuals that need the coverage. That it was an illness just like any other illness. It would require coverage and medical care just like any other illness. And we're finally going to provide the resources that are necessary so neither the healthcare community or the insurance company can deny a family when they're in need. And what used to happen was you would get enough for one visit or two visits, and the insurance companies determined what the coverage and the care you got, not what the patient needed. And that has now changed. And I will say this is important for one other reason, because it's something dear to our heart, as Alderman Burke is also here. Next week, when we pass our budget in the City Council, that will be the budget that ends homelessness for veterans in the city of Chicago this time next year. The city of Chicago is going on record. If you served our country, you will have a roof over your head. And you will no longer see a veteran on the lower part of Wacker Avenue, Wacker Drive, calling that home. And with that, once we get a shelter over their head, comes all the other additional benefits. We call them support services. It's actually creating a family for them so they are able to put one foot in front of the other and move on with their lives, given how much they have served the rest of us and our ability to be here today. So I want to thank Patrick for holding this forum here. Know that Chicago, while it's known as the second city, was always for the Kennedy family a second home. And I hope that you continue to see the warmth and affection in this family. And most importantly, you've also, for all of us, Patrick, I want to say this, that you showed that being in Congress or being elected to public office is not the only way to serve the public. You've never given up your fight. You've never given up your passion. You've never given up your sense of service to make sure, given how fortunate you have been, that you have walked through a door and carried other people by extending your arm through that door of opportunity and brought others there in the true spirit of what the Kennedy family has always defined for this nation of what public service is. And on behalf of a grateful city, thank you.
Our next speaker is the embodiment of the American dream, first-generation citizen. Father immigrated from Ecuador. Mother came here as a Cuban refugee. She ends up in Chicago at John Marshall Law School. She then works as an assistant attorney general in the Illinois Attorney General's office under Jim Ryan. She also an advocate. Found out several years ago that she has multiple sclerosis and has been a great advocate to raise awareness about that. Then goes on to the Wheaton City Council, and most recently was elected Lieutenant Governor of the state of Illinois. Please give a big round of applause to Evelyn Sanguinetti.
Buenas noches. Such an honor to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me and welcoming me. And thank you all for making health, mental health, a priority. You know, this rings very personal to our home. As you folks heard, my mother is an immigrant from Cuba, and I remember that there were two aunts in particular that never received services because it was back in Havana, Cuba. And they ultimately took their own lives. In Cuba, they didn't have the resources, they didn't have the education, and as a very proud Latina, of course, there was always a stigma associated with the mental health issue. So this issue rings near and dear to me and my family, and we know we must do more. We know that the prison system is not the ending place for the mentally ill. They need treatment, people need education, and over time, we need to get through these issues that are facing us. Bruce and I have consistently maintained that we need to make Illinois a very competitive state, but more so, we need to make Illinois a compassionate state, the most compassionate state in this country. What we're doing here tonight, making mental health a priority, is bringing us a step closer, but we acknowledge we need to do more. We look forward to going to work for all of you in January. We understand and we're humbled to the fact that we have a lot of challenges ahead of us, but we're here to find bipartisan solutions to make life better for every family in Illinois. And we look forward to working with all of you to make that happen. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
As we mentioned at the beginning of the program, what happened earlier in the day was pretty special. A lot of dynamic speakers, a lot of eye-opening moments, and we have collated those into a brief video. So if you would take a look at the video screen right now, we'd love for you to see what happened earlier today.
Threshold of a major revolution in healthcare, and that can only really take place if we include mental health care in overall healthcare. That's what's so exciting about this Kennedy Forum in Illinois, is we're getting the conversation started and we're looking for ways to actually be successful in this effort.
I can feel your cup. You know my river won't evaporate. This world we still appreciate.
My son was diagnosed with mental illness when he was about 21 years old, and Peter didn't win the battle. Peter passed away at 32 years old, and largely because he didn't want to treat his mental illness. He was afraid of the stigma, he was afraid of how he would be treated in society, and so I want to change that for others.
It's time for a change in course. Behavioral health is a healthcare priority. Let's treat it as such.
This is a story of unthinkable sorrow that needs to be told.
I hope you walk away from this event and you have a newfound commitment to being an advocate for mental health.
We're safe and sound.
This is the sexiest room of doctors and clinicians and committee members that I have ever been a part of. We are bringing sexy back in the mental health community. Yeah, woo! And when you attach yourself to something that's bigger than you, that's a life worth living. And that's Brandon Marshall quoted. Tweet that. All right, thank you guys.
That's going to be a tough speech to top, Brandon. He really doesn't need any introduction. Since he's come to Chicago, you've seen him electrify us all on the football field with his extraordinary talent. And that would almost be enough for most people, except for his personal journey has been one that he has been honest enough and strong enough to share with the world. And he and his wife founded the Brandon Marshall Foundation, which is dedicated to end the stigma attached to mental illness, advocating for unprecedented awareness, connecting those suffering to resources, and painting the world lime green. And I believe he got fined one time for wearing lime green cleats, but it was a fine I'm sure he was happy to pay. And so without further ado, please give a warm round of applause to your Bears wide receiver, number 15, Brandon Marshall.
Man, when I came down, I was coming from practice and I looked at my notes. Louis Correa, the executive director of our foundation, he pretty much just tells me what to say, right? So I'm looking at my notes and I'm like, okay, cool. So at 5:15, a little 5-minute talk and just a meet and greet type of deal. And man, I blew my wad because I don't have anything for you guys. So if you can go get the tape because that freaking speech was awesome. It was awesome. No, but you guys are sexy. I love you guys. And I think most of you guys heard my personal story or may know a little bit about it. But really, I just want to thank you guys. I want to take this time to thank you guys and encourage you guys because the work that you do is so amazing. And it's tough. We have the O'Briens here, and I see you, Miss O'Brien, with your lime green band. I see you, yes. And that's what it's about. It's about painting the world lime green. And what does that mean? It really means doing what we're doing today. I think you guys know where we're at in our community. We're in a place where it's, for lack of better words, it's disgusting. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to shine a light on this very dark topic. I think I may have heard someone at the Kennedy Forum last year say, and I use it every single time, like I'm a politician, like I sound like I'm wrong. Where we're at today in the mental health community, where the cancer community and the HIV community was 25 years ago. But it's true. It really is true. And it starts with things like this: forums, workshops, seminars. We have to create the conversation. And the work that you guys are doing is amazing. So I encourage you, I thank you guys to continue to go, to continue to push forward. Because like the O'Briens, like their story, and so many other stories in here and in this world, everyone doesn't make it. And that's a sad thing. So again, I'm gonna lean on my guy, Louis Correa. He sent me these notes, and what he said to me was, here's some things you can talk about. The team is not doing well. So how do you cope with that adversity? Well, Louis Correa, executive director of our foundation. Where are you at, Louis? Table 28? There you go. Well, how do you cope and deal with that adversity? I can use, use terms like, dialectical behavior therapy, You know, there's so many tools and skills I learned when I was at McLean Hospital for 3 months. I can use terms like cognitive behavior therapy, self-assessment, but really, it's none of that. At McLean Hospital, I figured that I finally realized and had revelation that this is my purpose. My purpose is to help bridge the gap in the mental health community. So I no longer play football to, buy a nice house, to sign big contracts, which is nice and, I love it. But I play football so I can wear lime green cleats and start discussions and wake up the next day and say, wow, in less than 24 hours, we got over 5 million media impressions. We did it. Get an invite to the Kennedy Forum to speak, to tell my story. So thank you guys so much for blessing me with a place to go, with all your research, with all your talents, with all of your patience, because you truly saved my life. And this one life that you saved, I promise you guys that I'm gonna do my best to try to save millions. Thank you. So how I deal with adversity, I mean, it's tough. We put all of our work into it, so it is disappointing. But at the end of the day, when I look at that journey I had before McLean Hospital, at McLean Hospital, I say that was tough. Listen, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's tough work, but I did it. That's tough. The work that you guys are doing is tough. The work that we're doing in our office is tough. Every single day we have to face a stigma. Every single day we get a lot of no's. Every single day we have to deal with people that are difficult to deal with. So I applaud you guys. Well, first of all, give yourself a hand because you guys have all the patience in the world. So that's easy. That's easy stuff. The second question was, how has your own personal struggles prepared you to deal with adversity on the field? Again, I go back to McLean Hospital and the work that we did there. I really believe that that is our calling. What we're doing in our office, creating this conversation, creating discussion, is really important because they say that's Brandon Marshall, the Chicago Bear. That's Brandon Marshall who just scored that touchdown on Monday Night Football. That's 18 million viewers. That's a platform. That's an opportunity. That's not a challenge. It's an opportunity to talk about brain fitness, to talk about some of the works that you guys are doing. So I'm proud that God gave me this burden. It turned into a burden. Now it truly is a passion of mine. And I really believe that we're going to make a big dent in this thing moving forward. My wife and I created the foundation, and we're just working really hard to really help young men. And I'm going to go into a personal story really quick. I had an opportunity to fly to California with my younger brother, Bijan Marshall. He's 23 years old, and I watched this kid struggle since he was 6 years old. He's my half-brother. His mother and grandmother was arrested and put in prison when we were babies for stealing. They were criminal thieves. They were professional thieves. That's what they did for a living. And here I am in the NFL with millions of dollars, and I have the opportunity to support my brother and help him, but I can't. There's nothing I can do. It was truly a sickness. And I tried everything, but I was hurting myself. I tried tough love, I tried love, I tried an incentive program, nothing worked. So he went away. A couple years ago, he was in prison, and I happened to be in Vail, Colorado, getting a hip surgery, my third hip surgery, and the doctors called and said, you need to get your family together because your brother, I don't think he's going to make it. He developed some type of virus, some type of sickness, and they didn't understand what was going on. So I wasn't supposed to leave. I left the hospital. I mean, I was less than 24 hours from surgery, out of surgery, left the hospital, went to Denver, and I remember standing around his bed and saying, man, bro, if you get through this, you know, we have to do something about this, man. We have to get you help. So he gets out of jail. He ended up getting well. They found that the antibiotics that he was giving him was really shutting down his system. So we did the test, found that, got him off of that, gave him the right stuff, ended up healing, getting out a year later. So now I said, okay, this is my time. So right here in Evanston, at Yellow Brick, we admitted him. 6 months of work. This off season, this summer, it cost us $150,000. $150,000. And that is a shame that he couldn't get the help that he needed anywhere else, and that it took that amount of money. And right now, my brother is in Denver, Colorado, facing life in prison because it was just too late. While he was in Yellow Brick, he stole, he continued to steal, and as we know, the longer the problem the longer it goes untreated, the worse it gets. And he went from just stealing petty things to stealing cars to breaking into houses to now actually armed robbery. I flew to, and I'm gonna finish up here because I know I'm long-winded, but this offseason I also had the opportunity to show him what was ahead of him if he just do the work. So we went to Under Armour, right? Went to Under Armour. One of our board members had this private jet, so we flew, the whole team was there, and we're ready to present to Under Armour how we're gonna save the world. We said, look, we wanna do a deal with you guys, but a different deal. I know you look at me as Brandon Marshall of Chicago Beer, but what we wanna do is sell your product. And how we're gonna sell your product is there's 88 million Americans that suffers from something. Something. If it's not them, it's a loved one or it's a friend. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna paint the world lime green. We're gonna put lime green all over your product. We're gonna watch this community come buy your stuff. But in turn, we wanna do a revenue sharing deal, you know, so we can take that money and connect those people with the resources they need to survive. And my brother was there. And I looked him in his eyes and I said, this kid right now is at Yellow Brick, and this is why we're doing it, for people like this. And unfortunately, he didn't make it, but we did sign a deal with Under Armour. And it is a revenue sharing deal. And the case study that I presented to them was Livestrong and Nike. Nike was able to help Livestrong raise over $80 million. They sold billions of dollars worth of product. And that's where we're at today, is rallying the troops. There's so many of us. Now it's time to do it. It's no more, you know, it's time to break stigma. We have the people that we need. There's a lot of us. So what I want to say to you guys is let's continue to rally the troops. There's all of us. Let's spread the word. Let's paint the world lime green. I encourage you guys to continue to do your work, dig deep, do a better job, and never give up. So thank you guys so much.